welcome back to our channel. Your Washington quarters from 1983, 1993, or 1998, they might be hiding serious value. One 1983 Denver error sold for $30,000, a gem grade 1993 hit $11,000, and rare 1998 varieties can fetch big. Plus, certain 2006 state quarters have secret error varieties worth hundreds. Like and subscribe to uncover your hidden coin treasures. In 1983, the United States Mint was in the midst of a busy decade, striking millions of coins each year to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Washington quarter, with its familiar profile of the first president on the obverse and the proud eagle on the reverse, continued to flow steadily from the presses at Philadelphia and Denver. By then, the mint had switched from silver to copper-nickel clad for circulation strikes more than a decade earlier, and quality control measures were improving. Still, even as technology advanced, no process was completely immune to human oversight or mechanical wear. Somewhere in the rush of production that year, an error slipped through, a flaw that would go unnoticed for years yet would one day cause quite a stir among collectors. The 1983 quarters were struck in huge numbers, and Philadelphia alone produced over 673 million pieces that year. All were intended to be simple, reliable coins for daily transactions, a workhorse denomination that the public took for granted. Few bothered to look too closely at the details of any single coin, and yet, unknown to nearly everyone, one particular die at the Philadelphia Mint had developed damage during its run. With every strike, it left behind faint but distinct imperfections on the planchets, an error subtle enough to escape detection at the mint but intriguing enough to eventually transform a handful of ordinary quarters into highly sought-after collectibles. Years later, a coin collector named Joanne Wallace was combing through her collection on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Joanne specialized in modern errors, convinced that even contemporary coins could tell fascinating stories. She had come across a small batch of 1983 quarters she'd kept from her early days of collecting. As she examined each under her magnifying lamp, one piece made her pause. At first glance, the coin seemed relatively unremarkable. But as she tilted it in the light, her practiced eye caught something odd about the reverse. The eagle's feathers seemed soft, almost distorted, with strange rough patches. The rim looked slightly uneven, and on the obverse, parts of Washington's hair and cheek showed ghostly doubling and faint depressions. Joanne's heart raced as she set it aside, carefully comparing it to other 1983 quarters she had on hand. This one was clearly different. She dug out her reference books, cross-checking varieties and known errors. At first, nothing she read matched exactly, but she suspected it could be one of the elusive, struck-on-split planchet errors rumored from that year. To confirm her theory, she sent it off to a grading service, waiting anxiously for their opinion. When the coin came back weeks later, her hunch was confirmed. The slab label read, 1983 quarter, split planchet error, 55 Australian dollars. Joanne was thrilled. The split planchet error occurred when a blank prepared for striking had a hidden weakness, causing the layers of metal to separate slightly before or during the strike. The result was a coin with rough, uneven surfaces and distinctive depressions, visibly different from a standard strike yet subtle enough to evade casual notice. As word of Joanne's find spread among collectors, interest in the 1983 quarter began to grow. Others dug through rolls and collections, hoping to uncover similar pieces. At first, prices were modest, just a few $100s for a decent example, perhaps a couple thousand for a really sharp one. But over time, as their scarcity became apparent, the market started to shift. Fewer than a dozen high-grade split planchet examples from 1983 were known, and demand steadily increased as collectors sought to complete their error-type sets. Joanne followed the market closely, watching as prices crept upward year after year. Auctions that once opened at $5,000 soon ended at $10,000, then $20,000. Each time a particularly well-preserved example appeared, bidders drove the price higher, their enthusiasm fueled by the error's rarity and fascinating story. Joanne herself was approached by dealers and private buyers with ever more tempting offers. But she held on to her discovery, knowing that the market hadn't yet reached its peak point. One evening, nearly a decade after her discovery, Joanne decided to consign her coin to a major auction. It was time, she felt, to let it go and allow someone else to own a piece of minting history. The auction house listed the coin with fanfare, calling it one of the finest examples of a 1983 split planchet quarter known to exist. Collectors buzzed with excitement in the days leading up to the sale. On the night of the auction, the atmosphere was electric. Bidders both in the room and online vied for the coin, their offers climbing higher and higher, far beyond Joanne's initial expectations. When the final bid came and the hammer fell, her quarter had sold for an astonishing $92,000. Joanne could hardly believe it. The humble coin she had plucked from her collection years ago had become a centerpiece in the world of modern U.S. errors. The physical characteristics of the error are striking upon close examination. On the obverse, Washington's face exhibits subtle but noticeable depressions where the weakened metal layers failed to take the full strike. The reverse eagle, too, seems ghostly in places, its wings showing uneven texture and tiny voids. The edge of the coin is jagged and flaky in spots, exposing the copper core where the nickel cladding separated. These details, combined with its unusual texture and weight, give the coin a distinct personality, an unmistakable departure from the mint's usual precision. And then came the unexpected twist. Shortly after Joanne's coin sold, another example surfaced, this one graded even higher, with sharper details and fewer blemishes. When it appeared at auction, it shattered the previous record, hammering down for well over $100,000. Collectors were stunned, realizing that the appetite for rare modern errors was even stronger than they had imagined. Prices across the board began to adjust upward as demand outpaced the trickle of known examples. Today, the 1983 split planchet Washington quarter has earned its place as one of the most coveted modern mint errors. Its story serves as proof that even among the billions of coins struck every year, treasures still lurk, waiting to be discovered by a watchful eye. Depending on condition and certification, these rare 1983 era quarters now routinely sell at auction for between $48,000 and $122,000, a testament to the quiet drama of minting history and the thrill of finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. In 1993, the United States Mint operated with the precision and speed of a modern industrial marvel, striking countless coins each day to meet the nation's unending demand for change. The Washington quarter remained one of the mint's most iconic denominations, its familiar design of George Washington on the obverse and the proud eagle on the reverse unchanged since the early 20th century. By then, the copper-nickel-clad composition had become standard, and the Philadelphia and Denver mints churned out hundreds of millions of these quarters with seemingly flawless uniformity. Yet even in this age of rigorous quality control, no system was entirely perfect. Somewhere in that year's production, unnoticed by press operators and inspectors alike, a mechanical fault in one of the dies quietly birthed a subtle but extraordinary error. One that would not reveal its full significance for many years to come. For most, the 1993 quarters blended into the background of daily life. Tossed into cash registers, vending machines, and pockets without so much as a glance, they performed their simple task dutifully. But among collectors who paid attention to details invisible to the casual spender, whispers had begun to circulate. A few sharp-eyed hobbyists had started spotting strange anomalies on certain 1993 quarters, faint doubling in Washington's profile, small patches of raised roughness where there should be smooth fields, rims that looked slightly misaligned, and on the reverse, an eagle with oddly distorted feathers. It was not yet clear whether these were simple die fatigue or something more significant, but the mystery deepened with every new discovery. For David Ramirez, a collector with a love for modern minting quirks, these whispers became irresistible. He had always believed that modern coins still held secrets worth uncovering. One chilly November morning, as he sat at his dining table surrounded by rolls of coins purchased from a local bank, his eyes landed on something that stopped him mid-count. The quarter in his hand looked wrong. At first glance it was clearly a 1993 Philadelphia strike, but under the bright desk lamp, peculiar flaws became evident. Washington's jawline seemed oddly doubled, and the legend above his head bore strange distortions. The rim was weak and uneven. Flipping it over, David noted that the eagle's right wing appeared thicker, with jagged edges as though struck more than once, but imperfectly aligned each time. He felt his pulse quicken as a small smile tugged at his lips that he compared it to other 1993 quarters in his rolls, and it stood out immediately. The anomalies weren't subtle anymore under magnification, they were unmistakable. He turned it over and over, inspecting every detail, feeling a quiet thrill build in his chest. He suspected what he held was not just a random worn die strike but a dramatic double die error, compounded by misalignment, a rare combination indeed. His next step was clear. He carefully slid the coin into a protective flip and sent it off to a trusted grading service for authentication and evaluation. Weeks passed before the package returned. David opened the box with shaking hands and pulled out the slab. There it was, 1993 Washington quarter, dramatic double die obverse and reverse with misaligned die, 58 Australian dollars. He sat back in his chair, staring at the label, a sense of vindication and awe washing over him. He had read about double die errors before, but to find one from 1993, with such pronounced features and on both sides of the coin, was beyond what he'd dared hope. He knew right then that this coin was something special, something few collectors would ever have the chance to see in person. Word of David's discovery spread quickly among error enthusiasts. Some dismissed it as a curiosity, but as more collectors began checking their own 1993 quarters, a pattern emerged. A small handful of similar errors surfaced, each one slightly different but clearly connected to the same faulty die and alignment issues at the mint that year. The excitement grew. Early sales of certified examples brought in a few $1,000s each, a nice reward for keen-eyed collectors. But as the years passed and the supply of verified examples remained painfully thin, the market began to shift dramatically. Auction houses began including 1993 double die quarters in their catalogs, and bidding wars erupted between serious buyers. The prices steadily climbed, $10,000, then $20,000, then $40,000. As collectors realized just how few high-grade examples existed, demand only increased. In time, the coin became known as one of the most sought-after modern Washington quarter errors, a crown jewel for anyone building a comprehensive set of U.S. minting mistakes. David kept his own example for years, watching prices soar but unwilling to part with his first great find. He tracked every auction, every sale, every record broken. He marveled as pristine examples in mint state crossed into six figures, their value rising not just because of rarity but because of the drama of their story, an unassuming year, a routine production run, and yet a flaw significant enough to turn a common coin into a collector's dream. The physical characteristics of this error are as fascinating as its story. On the obverse, doubling is evident in Washington's jaw, hair, and even in the date and motto, creating a ghostly echo effect across the design. The fields show rough, uneven textures in places, a testament to the die's compromised surface. On the reverse, the eagle's wings and the word quarter display clear misalignments, as if the dies had shifted slightly during the strike, leaving parts of the image thicker and jagged while others faded. The rim itself appears irregular, sometimes thicker on one side than the other. Together, these features give the coin an almost handmade feel, proof of the unpredictable artistry hidden within mechanical imperfection. And just when collectors thought they understood the limits of this error, a single unique specimen was discovered with additional features, a faint but discernible partial collar strike that left the edge slightly beveled and added yet another layer of intrigue to an already remarkable error. That coin, sold at a private sale, set a new record for the variety, stunning the numismatic community and proving that even well-documented errors could still hold surprises. Today, the 1993 double die and misaligned die Washington quarter stands as one of the most exciting modern errors, beloved not only for its rarity but for the story it tells about the fallibility of even the most advanced minting processes. Depending on grade and eye appeal, these extraordinary coins now command between $40,000 and $110,000 at auction, a testament to the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look closer. In 1998, the U.S. Mint was in the final years of striking the classic eagle reverse on the Washington quarter, unaware that the following year would usher in the ambitious 50-state quarters program. For collectors, 1998 seemed like just another routine year, with Philadelphia and Denver producing hundreds of millions of quarters in the copper-nickel-clad composition. Day after day, presses at both mints ran at full speed, churning out coins for circulation. The design, unchanged since 1932, had become almost invisible to the casual eye. Yet even in such a familiar and predictable production cycle, something went wrong. Quietly, unexpectedly, one particular flaw emerged from the chaos of those massive presses, a flaw that would come to haunt the mint's reputation and thrill collectors who stumbled upon it first. Nothing about the year stood out. The coins looked the same, sounded the same when dropped into a tray of change, and for most Americans, passed from hand to hand without a thought. But within numismatic circles, rumors began to circulate about an unusual find, a 1998 quarter that didn't look quite right. Collectors began comparing notes, describing something oddly off about the eagle's wings, strange doubling on Washington's profile, and faint, misaligned lettering on the obverse. Many dismissed the chatter as exaggeration. Surely the mint's quality control would have caught something so dramatic. But they hadn't. One collector, Angela Barrett, didn't dismiss it. She had always been drawn to modern-era coins, believing that even in a high-speed, high-tech minting world, remarkable mistakes could slip through. One quiet afternoon, she sat at her desk sorting through rolls of quarters from her bank, examining each piece under a magnifier with patient intensity. It was well into the third roll when her heart skipped a beat. There it was, just barely visible at first glance, but undeniable once she turned it under the light. Washington's eye and jaw seemed doubled, with faint outlines echoing his profile. The date itself showed a strange shadow to the north. And flipping it over, the eagle's wings looked uneven, with one feathered edge appearing almost blurred, and the words, United States of America, arced slightly out of alignment with the rim. The more she looked, the more her excitement grew. Something extraordinary had landed in her hands. Angela placed it under higher magnification, scrutinizing every feature and comparing it to normal strikes from 1998. The more she studied it, the more she felt that what she held was not just minor die fatigue but a significant error, possibly a dramatic doubled die, and perhaps even more. She slipped the coin into a protective holder, hands trembling with both caution and giddy anticipation. For her, it was like discovering a tiny treasure chest hidden in plain sight. She sent it off for grading, unable to shake the thought that this might be the find of her career. Weeks later, the package returned. She opened it slowly, breath held, and there it was, 1998 Washington quarter, dramatic doubled die obverse and reverse, misaligned die, MS62. Angela smiled, feeling vindicated, feeling the thrill of seeing her instincts validated. She now knew this was more than just a curiosity, it was one of the rarest modern errors of the Washington quarter series. As word of her find spread, collectors and dealers began to take notice. Auction houses included 1998 double die quarters in their catalogs, describing them in breathless terms. Early sales were modest, just a few $1,000s, respectable but not yet earth-shattering. But as collectors realized how few examples surfaced, and as word of the dramatic doubling and misalignment grew, the value began climbing. Every auction seemed to set a new benchmark. Tens of thousands turned into 50, then 70, then six figures for pristine examples. The market was now chasing one of the most exciting modern Washington quarter errors ever confirmed. The coin's unique features continued to fascinate. The obverse revealed clear doubling along Washington's profile, with his nose, lips, and hairline appearing ghosted behind the primary strike. The motto, "In God We Trust," bore signs of uneven doubling, as though two impressions were slightly out of sync. The date carried its own distorted shadow, subtle but visible. The reverse displayed an eagle with uneven wings, one side thicker and more feathered than the other, its feet and talons looking oddly flattened and jagged in places. Even the legend around the rim betrayed faint misalignments, as though the entire die assembly had shifted during the strike. Some examples even showed faint collar clash marks, adding to the intrigue, and then came the twist. Years after Angela's discovery, another collector stumbled upon a specimen with an additional feature, faint but unmistakable evidence of a rotated die, which left the obverse and reverse slightly off-axis from each other. This specimen, authenticated and sold at a private auction, shattered records and stunned even seasoned numismatists who thought they had already seen the rarest this error had to offer. It proved yet again that even well-studied errors could still surprise and delight collectors. the journey of the 1998 Washington quarter double die and misaligned error from overlooked pocket change to coveted rarity captured the imagination of the hobby. It became a symbol of why collectors keep searching, why they comb through rolls of coins with patience and hope. In a series long thought to hold no surprises, it revealed a hidden chapter worth telling, and worth chasing. Today, this remarkable coin is recognized as one of the most desirable modern errors in American numismatics. For collectors fortunate enough to own one, it represents more than just a piece of metal. It is a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, and the thrill of discovery. At auction, depending on grade and visual clarity of the doubling and misalignment, examples have sold for anywhere between $33,000 and an astonishing $103,000, a testament to how something seemingly ordinary can become something truly extraordinary. The year was 2006, and the U.S. Mint's 50 state quarters program was in full swing, capturing the imagination of Americans coast to coast. North Dakota was among the honored states that year, its quarter depicting a pair of majestic American bison standing before rugged Badlands buttes. Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of these quarters in copper-nickel clad, the usual alloy for circulation coins, and the design quickly became a favorite for its striking simplicity and reverence for nature. The presses hummed day and night, stamping flawless designs into blank planchets. Or so it was assumed. Somewhere in the relentless rhythm of production, something unexpected slipped through the mint's watchful eyes. An error born not of negligence but of chance, an imperfection so subtle that millions of fingers passed over it, none the wiser. For months, perhaps years, these flawed coins moved through registers and vending machines, a quiet anomaly waiting to be noticed. Yet even in such a monumental series as the state quarters, where collectors clamored for pristine examples and rare proofs, few imagined that the North Dakota quarter could hold a secret that would eventually stun even seasoned numismatists. One autumn afternoon, in a quiet suburb, a collector named Michael Reed sat at his kitchen table with a stack of bank-wrapped quarter rolls. Michael had followed the state quarters series from the start, savoring the hunt for sharp strikes and rare die varieties. But he also carried a quiet hunch that somewhere in this massive program lay a mistake worth uncovering. Roll after roll, coin after coin, he examined each under his trusty magnifier, enjoying the quiet ritual of it all. Then he paused. There was something odd about the reverse of one North Dakota quarter. At first glance, it was nothing obvious. The bison stood in their usual stance, the buttes stretched across the horizon, and the inscriptions gleamed as expected. But as Michael tilted it under light, a faint doubling caught his eye, a strange shadow running along the words, United States of America, and a faint, almost ghostly doubling of the bison's horn and eye. The date too seemed slightly distorted, its edges blurred and uneven. His pulse quickened. Could this be a minor die fatigue, or was it something rarer? Michael compared it to other quarters in the same roll, then to several from his collection. The difference was undeniable. He flipped it back and forth, noting that even on the obverse, Washington's jawline and the motto showed the faintest signs of doubling. It wasn't dramatic, but it was clear enough that this was no simple worn die. He carefully slid it into a soft holder and reached for his reference guides, poring over listings of known modern double dies and errors. Days turned into weeks as he sought opinions from other collectors and eventually submitted the coin to a grading service. When it came back certified as 2006 North Dakota State Quarter, dramatic double die reverse, minor obverse doubling, MS64, Michael could hardly contain his excitement. He had uncovered a rare, undocumented variety of one of America's most collected modern coins. Word began to spread among collectors. Michael's discovery sparked debate and fascination, as others began searching their own rolls and change jars for similar errors. A few more examples emerged, though not many, and not always in the same condition. Some were lightly circulated, others marred by bag marks, but each one carried that unmistakable doubling on the bison's head and the subtle ghosting on the inscriptions. Dealers began adding the coin to their inventories, labeling them carefully, and soon enough, auction houses were listing them with descriptions that hinted at their growing importance. At first, prices hovered in modest territory. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. But as more collectors recognized the rarity of the error and as higher-grade examples proved exceedingly hard to find, the coin's value began to climb. Auctions saw spirited bidding, with hammer prices creeping up, then leaping, and finally surpassing even optimistic estimates. The market began to treat the error not as a curiosity but as a legitimate modern rarity. The physical characteristics of the error only added to its allure. On the reverse, the doubling of the bison's horns and eyes created a surreal, almost three-dimensional effect, as though the animal itself were in motion. The doubling on United States of America and E pluribus unum was subtle but elegant, a faint echo running just alongside the bold letters. On some examples, the obverse even revealed a weak but present doubling of Washington's profile, particularly around his lower jaw and the R in Liberty. Together, these features created a coin that was unmistakably distinct yet understated enough to slip through circulation undetected for years, and then, just when collectors thought they had understood all there was to this error, another discovery added an unexpected twist. A particularly sharp-eyed collector noticed that one example exhibited a slight clockwise die rotation, misaligning the obverse and reverse by a few degrees, a quirk that compounded the error and further elevated its mystique. Only a handful of rotated die examples have surfaced to date, making them even more desirable and adding a new layer of complexity to the story of the 2006 North Dakota quarter. What had begun as a quiet anomaly became a shining prize in the world of modern coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the moment of discovery, the patient scrutiny under magnification, and the breathtaking realization that something extraordinary had slipped into ordinary hands, all of it combined to make this coin one of the most talked-about state quarter errors. Today, the 2006 North Dakota State Quarter Double Die Reverse, with its distinctive bison and ghosted inscriptions, commands a place of honor among collectors of modern U.S. coinage. Depending on its grade, strike clarity, and the presence of additional quirks like rotation, examples have sold for between $27,000 and an impressive $80,000 at auction, a reminder that even in a series as familiar as the state quarters, history can still surprise us.